Hello and welcome to another AIC Productions video. Today I want to talk about something that's a little near and dear to my heart. Sometimes we like something, not necessarily because it's the best in its category, or the cheapest in its category, or that you can't get something better for a similar price, but we like it because there's just something about it that speaks to us, that really means a lot to us. And for me, in laptops, that's the original zBook 14. Now, this is a laptop that I bought when they very first came out. I want to say back in 2014 and 2013, 2014 when they initially launched. I actually got one of the very first ones available on the market. Now, a couple things about it. Is this a super portable laptop? For the day, it was very reasonable. It's about the same thickness as a similarly spec'd T-Series or Dell of a similar category. It's got a little bit more rounded edges, so it feels a little bit slimmer, but it's not. It's similar in thickness. Is it sexy? Is it attractive? I think this is a face only a mother could love. The design language is not something I'd call modern, like you would a modern MacBook. It's not industrial like you would call a ThinkPad. It's a bit unique and a bit strange. It has this big rubber thing around the edge that isn't really more than skin deep, so it's not really a protective layer. So and it scuffs kind of easily. It's got a nice anodized finish that also scratches kind of easily. So it's not the most attractive thing in the world, but it definitely is unique, if a bit strange. Is it feature rich? I would say for the time it has very good ports on it. You have several USB 3 ports, you got a couple different video port options, you have your Ethernet, it has the ability to have a dock, so it's pretty good on features, especially for its time. It was pretty good, and for today, it's actually really good. Most laptops have started to lose a lot of the ports that this system has. Now, is it super powerful? No, not by half. It has this particular one has a 5th gen Core i7, but it's a Ultrabook version of that chip, so it's a U series, and that means it is just a dual core 4-thread processor, and that definitely struggles. It can have 16 gigs of RAM. It does have 2 RAM slots in it, and it does have dedicated video graphics, but they're just barely better than the onboard graphics. They're really not great. Battery life on it has always been, even when it was brand new, was just kind of so-so. Pretty hefty specs for just a small 3-cell battery. It did get this port actually right here is for an extended battery, but it literally made it twice as thick. It was a beast. I did have one initially, and it was a monster. And it did improve battery life, but not as much as you would expect for how big that battery was. Why do I love this? One of the reasons is that it is unique. It's very much a different design language than what you were seeing at the time when it was released from other machines. At the time, I actually had the opportunity to test a Dell, Lenovo, the ThinkBook lines, and it really came down that this laptop had some unique features, a unique look, and some pretty reasonable performance for what it was at the time compared to its competitors, and I really liked it. And I love it because also it was a bit of a flop. They sold them, but not in great numbers, not like Dell and Lenovo. And so you just don't see them that often. You go to a meeting or something like that, you just don't see them. And I like having something that's unique. They also did so many things on this laptop that just feel so right for me. And I'll open up here. It does have this chiclet style keyboard, but I love the way this keyboard feels. It just has a nice feedback. The keycaps are really nice and stable. It's a real pleasure to type on this keyboard. The trackpad is excellent. I'll be honest, this is probably one of my favorite trackpads on a laptop ever, period. It's really nice and big. You still get the big physical buttons. There's a little bit of a recess here so you can really engage the buttons well. I honestly don't think I've come across a laptop with a better touchpad for my personal workflow. I just love this trackpad. It has really good speakers. It has, I want to say they're Bang & Olufsen speakers on this, so you get really good sound for a workstation notebook. I'm used to the typical Lenovo speakers, which are just, especially of this generation, are just awful. But this has really nice speakers. I love the way the backlight works on it. So, like with a lot of laptops, you turn on the backlight, and then after a while it turns off again. You have to physically turn it back on. One of the settings on this is if you just touch any key, the backlight will turn on for 10-15 seconds as long as there's activity. And after like 10 seconds of activity, it'll turn off. But as soon as you touch anything, it'll come right back on again, which means that you never have to keep turning the backlight back on. It's, to me, that's so intuitive. It's the way it should be, and yet that's not the way it often is. Other thing I get is I still get my track point, which I do use the track point on these laptops. And the other thing is the upgradability. This is one of my absolute favorite features, is if you need to do anything on this system, and this is true of any of the zBooks of this era, is there's just a little switch here on the back, and there you go. You have access to your storage, your RAM, your battery. You can clean it out pretty easily. It's as simple as a switch, and it's open. And I love this about this line of systems. Most other laptops, even the Lenovo's I have now, there's 7 or 8 screws that you have to unscrew to access the system. Even though it's just as upgradable as this, you got a bunch of screws you have to go through. What do I not like about it? Specifically, the arrow keys. That's one thing that a lot of laptops have these days, are these short arrow keys. On the Lenovo's, they have the keyboard bumped down just a little bit so you can have a full-size up and down arrow key, and I really wish that the zBook had those arrow keys. I'm also not a huge fan of the performance. With it being just a dual-core 4-thread processor, the underperforming dedicated video card, it just, I know it's a thin and light Ultrabook, but I know that it could have had something a little bit more powerful in here easily, and I wish they had done that. For the package that it's in, it definitely should have had a better CPU, if nothing else. A 4-core 8-thread processor would have really made this a long-lasting machine for me. And then lastly, the battery life. The battery is just a 3-cell battery. It's fairly small. They could have put a bigger one in here. I don't know why they didn't. And it would have been nice to have a longer battery life on this without having to resort to that extended battery thing. But there it is. There's my perfect laptop. Obviously, not any one thing is ever truly perfect, but for me personally, this is about as close as they came. And if I could get this exact laptop with modern hardware inside of it, you know, modern CPU, modern memory, graphics, I would rock this laptop the day I die. I think it's that good. Now, this specific laptop is not my original one. I did end up selling that a couple of years ago, and I regretted selling it every single day that since then. And so I found this one online that was just a really smoking good deal, and I went ahead and picked it up. This is actually a 2nd gen, so my first one was a 1st gen. This is a 2nd gen, so it has a slightly faster CPU, and it has a slightly faster GPU as well. Still just 1 gig of RAM in there, but I'm glad I got it for the slightly better performance, and it will mostly just be added to my collection. I have a few laptops now that are in my collection that I'll have for forever. That'll always be something that I own, and that's my OmniBook, my Compact V2000, my 25th anniversary ThinkPad, and now my zBook 14. So if you have any questions about this system or any of the other systems that I have, I'm more than happy to answer those questions. And welcome to another member of my long-term laptop collection. And thank you for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day.